Hi and welcome to this video on data blending in Tableau. This is our 7th tutorial from the section of connecting to data in Tableau. In this video, we will talk about data blending. What is data blending? Data blending is combining multiple data sources to create a single new data set which can be presented visually in a dashboard or other visualization. Unlike data joining, which means we will be working with only one and the same source. When we blend data, we send separate queries to separate data sources and aggregate the results to a common level in Tableau. We have two data sources with us: retail store data and sales data. I would first let you explore the two data files. The retail store data file is in the Microsoft Excel format and has these columns and rows. The other data file, sales data, is also of the same format and has these columns and rows as well. The column header seems similar, but notice that the number of rows in the sales data file is lesser than in the retail store data. You can see that to blend the data, there should be at least one common field between two data sources, like we have the states column here, since some of the state names are commonly occurring between the two data files. Even if the header of the column was different, but the columns had some common members inside them, we could manually define the relationship by combining the columns on the basis of common members inside. Let's open the files in Tableau. Add another data source by clicking on this icon here. If there were data sources with different field names but common field members, we could manually establish a relationship between them by going to the Data menu and clicking on the Edit Relationship. Select Retail Store Sales as primary data since it had more field members, and define the two fields as equivalent. But for now, I am not going to hit OK since I already have an automatically established relationship between the two fields, because both my data sources had a common field name, so I do not need to do all that work. Now that our common fields are defined, we are ready to start blending. First, select the retail shop sales data source. We'll drag retail shop sales to the columns shelf and we'll bring state to the rows shelf. Note that there is now a blue check mark next to retail shop data source in the data pane. Whenever we are connected to multiple data sources in Tableau, the first data source we bring out to the view becomes the primary, denoted by this blue check mark. As we switch to the second data source, an orange bar appears next to the data pane, indicating that the fields we are now working with belong to the secondary data source. Also, notice the orange linking icon next to state. Since we already brought state into the view, Tableau will automatically blend on it, denoted by the orange link. There are also some grayed broken link icons next to the field names here, which indicate that we can also use these fields to blend our data sources together, but currently we have not employed those fields in the current view. If we wanted to also blend on this field, clicking on the gray link activates it and creates the relationship. Now let's do the data blend by dragging sales data, sales amount to the columns shelf. We now see there's an orange check mark next to sales data source and on the column shelf in the view, indicating that it's from our secondary data source. If we click on the axis below here, we have an option, Dual Axis. Select Dual Axis to bring the visualization into this view. It overlaps the data from both axes to give a comparative view. We can change our graph styles to area graph for both data sources. To bring about this view, Tableau first queries for the sum of sales by state to each data source, and then displays the values together in the view. We see sales information for every state from the primary data source that happens to be retail shop data because Tableau returns information for all field members of states field in the primary data source, regardless of whether or not there is data from the secondary data source. Similarly, if we make sales data as the primary source and retail shop data as the secondary source, then let's see what information will be returned for states field. We have opened a new worksheet and see that the previously established relationships are no longer valid on this worksheet, indicating that the primary and secondary data sources are not globally maintained throughout Tableau. This time, we'll drag sum of sales from the sales data source to make it primary data to the view first, and then we'll drag states from the same data source. Note that this time we have a lesser number of states listed out here on previous worksheet. This is because our sales data source had a lesser number of field members inside the states field. This shows that only the data from the primary source is displayed first, regardless of what data the secondary source may or may not contain. I hope you found this video useful and learned how to blend data sources together with Tableau. Thanks for watching.